Hi again, Kristen Friel, your moderator here. Today I'm here to introduce Pastor Jim McKenzie, who will be joining Middleton Community Church as our interim pastor effective November 1st. Yes, another Pastor Jim. For now, we'll refer to him as Pastor McKenzie to avoid confusion for you, but one-on-one, he will tell you that he really prefers just to be called Jim. But a little bit of background about Pastor McKenzie. After seminary, he became a pastoral counselor for almost 20 years, where he incorporated theology and faith into the therapy that he provided to his clients. From there, he served as senior minister at Ozaki Congregational Church for 13 years. And for the last 5 years, he's been focused on interim pastoral work. Most recently, Pastor McKenzie has spent the last year as interim pastor at First Congregational Church UCC in Port Washington, Wisconsin. He arrived at that church upon their beloved pastor's retirement after serving their congregation for 30 years. Sound familiar? They now have a settled pastor who's been called and who will begin his ministry in January. Both references I personally spoke with mentioned how skilled Pastor McKenzie was in shepherding the congregation through and past their grief, and at the congregation's own speed, not rushing them through anything. That therapy experience really comes in handy during interim work. I personally find Pastor McKenzie's approach very reassuring, and his video sermons are very relatable. He is in the process of moving to the Madison area and is very excited to get to know Middleton Community Church, our community, and our ministries. I am confident Pastor McKenzie will help keep MCC active and engaged and effectively prepare us for our next settled pastor. Now please join me in welcoming Interim Pastor Jim McKenzie to the MCC family. Thanks.
Hello, Middleton Community Church. My name is Jim McKenzie, and I am pleased to meet you. I am an ordained UCC minister and one who is just about ready, come November 1st, to be your new interim minister. I thought I would take just a few minutes and make this introductory video to give you a sense a little bit more about who I am, what I think, what I believe, what I feel strongly about, and maybe to share a few words with you about this process of interim ministry, what we're about to embark upon together. So if you will allow me to come into your homes, let me share a few words with you, and let me tell you very plainly that I am here for you, and I'll be praying for each and every one of you and our process, which is just about to begin. But first, let's begin with an introduction. Interim ministry is a specialized approach to church work. It's more than just pulpit supply or an occasional person who stops by to consult. It's a full-time commitment to being your pastor in what I call the gap. The gap is that period of time for us between Pastor Jim's leaving and the calling of your new settled minister. Faced with transition, churches need some critical sources of support, like a stable pastoral presence, someone trained in the dynamics and processes of transformation, the challenges of change. Churches need somebody who understands what that is all about. To be honest with you, I'd like to be that person for you, to walk beside you, and to help you to continue being the strong church that you already are, and looking forward to the new leadership that is to come that fits you best. People ask me oftentimes, well, during this period of the gap, who's going to be our pastor? Who's going to do worship services? Who's going to do pastoral care? Who's going to do counseling? Who's going to be that one that takes care of administrative issues and funerals and weddings and baptisms and visitation as available during this pandemic? The simple answer is, I will. I will be your pastor. But in addition, interim ministry is a specialized work that will include addressing, assessing, discerning. We'll be addressing the past of Middleton United Church of Christ. We'll be looking where you have been as a church, what your traditions are, and what ministries you've been involved in. Your core values that without you wouldn't be Middleton UCC. We'll also be assessing the present and taking a look at who you are, not just who you've been, but who you are in the present time. And we'll be asking the question, who is your neighbor? And what is your calling as a church? You're not just another social club. You are a church, an ecclesia, which is the Greek word, which means called out. You are those who have been called out of the world to serve. We'll take a look at what calling is yours. We'll also be discerning what the future is and who it is that you need to call to be your next settled minister following Pastor Jim, and who it will be that best fits who you are. I will be encouraging you not to make the number one mistake that churches make in transition and change. They go out looking for the minister with the flashiest resume, and they make a great mistake. What's most critical is that we will be looking for the one that best fits to be right alongside you in ministry. That's the one that you'll want to have come be your new settled minister. In the meantime, you may be wondering who I am. So I'd like to tell you a little bit about myself, and if you'd like to know more, then feel free to ask. First of all, I want you to know that I am a passionate follower of Jesus. I did not grow up in the church. I came to faith as one from the outside, a lost sheep, as it were. Someone who didn't know churchy things like how to speak Christian, which included words and language like salvation, faith, sin, Trinity, and the Lord's Supper. I didn't know how to sing the hymns, let alone recite any creeds. Why, I didn't even know how many commandments were in the 10 Commandments. But I had discovered, you see, a God who loved me more than life itself and wanted me to love others in the very same way. While later trained in the traditions of the church, I've been to 3 seminaries, I realized that institutions change, just as we humans do. We all grow and morph, and we need to learn how to adapt. That's why I generally think outside the box. I've done that as an inventor, an artist, a musician, clinician, and pastor. I'm not afraid to take chances. I'm not much one for pretense. And I believe that the best things in life surely do come in small packages. I hope you'll ask me about my new grandson one of these days. So what do I believe? Well, I believe all kinds of things. Some are more important than others. But here's a few things to tell you a little something about myself. I believe that life is short, and we ought to get on with the living of it. I think that faith helps us to embrace the depth and the breadth of life. I think it gives us direction and purpose and meaning. I try not to get tangled up in the details of religious legalism. I'm more interested, quite frankly, in the bigger picture. Like Jesus said, of loving God and loving one another. I need to tell you that I am progressive in my thinking and in my theology. I take the Bible seriously, very seriously, but I do not take the Bible literally. And there's a big difference, and we'll be talking more about that. I'm not dogmatic about my theology or about my politics, both of which I feel very strongly. I think all of us, you see, have a vision that is somewhat less than 2020, and we all ought to take the hint. Let's strive to be humble and build that beloved community that we in the UCC talk so fervently about. Our world is way too divided now, and we ought to do all we can to draw together. One last thing I'd like you to know is that I don't check my mind at the church door. Biblical scholarship is a wonderful thing, a great contribution. It has given us much. Let's embrace it and use it to help us draw closer to the God who yearns to draw close to us. Well, that's a little bit about me, and that's probably the least important thing in my mind. I'm more interested in learning about you and who you are, what you think, and what you feel strongly about. And I hope you'll call me, write me a note, maybe Zoom me. It doesn't really matter. I just want you to know that I'm here and I'm around. I'm your pastor. I'll see you soon. Hopefully real soon.